Welcome to Women Who Brand, Season 2, a podcast that spotlights inspiring women shaping the future of brands and culture. I'm Alejandra Salazar, founder and CEO of CROING, a creative agency and a cultural hub, part of the 0.1% of creative agencies founded by a woman, and I'll be your host today. This podcast is part of an initiative by CROING as we are committed to bringing real voices and perspective to the conversation around leadership, creativity, and brand building. Women Who Brand are creative, strategic, and visionary forces redefining the world of marketing by leading teams and building brands that truly connect with people. This season, we are going beyond inspiration and explore how these women build culture, lead with purpose, and make brand decisions you can apply to your own journey. In this episode, we dive into the unique journey of Jasmine Taylor, Vice President Consumer Marketing at Instacar. Jasmine takes us through her unique path from engineering to marketing, sharing how she blends analytical and creative thinking to build impactful brands. We obviously explore the behind the scenes of Instacart's viral Super Bowl spot with the one and only Ben Stiller and Benson Boone, which we love, and how cultural insights and humor can make a brand resonate. It was fascinating to see that this idea came from a true consumer insight, and they just took it to the next level under the leadership of the amazing Jasmine. We talk about the number one audience of Instacar, busy women, and I know some of you will relate. Jasmine also offers empowering advice for women in leadership, like starting your public speaking journey by joining safe spaces like the Women Who Brand podcast. So join me in welcoming our next Woman Who Brand, Jasmine Taylor. Hi, Jazz. How are you, love?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it is my honor to have you here. And I know the audience will enjoy so much to hear from you. So, for those who don't know, Jasmine Taylor is the Vice President Consumer Marketing at Instacar. Yes, Instacar. Such a cool brand. Jasmine and I met at Age last year. We chatted about the activation you guys did in Cannes and discussed the importance of knowing our consumers. And now we're here for our audience to get to know you better, which to me, you are one of the most amazing leaders behind Instacar. And of course, we will talk about Instacar's second Super Bowl ad. So that will be the conversation. So first, to start, I really want the audience to get to know you more. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got your current role and what is it about?
Yeah, sure. So, actually, like my professional journey, where I started, I would not have imagined that I would have ended up here. So, I actually studied engineering in undergrad. Yes.
Oh, wow, love it.
Yes. And I loved everything about engineering in terms of just learning how to be a real problem solver, right? And like really build the analytical muscles necessary to solve really hard problems. I thought I would be on like a tech journey, right? Like a pure tech journey. And then it was actually during business school that I really started to think about like, yes, I want a career where I can solve hard problems, but I also want a career where I can use my left and right brain, right? Like I want to solve problems that require like analytical thinking and strategic thinking, but I also want to solve problems that require creative thinking.
Love it.
Yeah. And so that is how I really started to lean into marketing. So post business school, I went to American Express, and that's like, it's like the training ground of marketing. I learned how to be a marketer there. You learn marketing 101, right? Like how do you really start to reach customers, engage them, and bring them closer to your brand and your business. I did that for a few years. And then my husband and I moved out to the Bay Area. That's where I think I fell in love with marketing, because at LinkedIn, I got introduced to product marketing, right? And so product marketing is really a function of marketing, a strategic function that sits so much closer to engineering and product, right? So you can imagine I got to speak both languages. I got to hang out with the product management team and the engineering team, the data science, but I also got to hang out with like the brand marketers and the consumer research folks. And so I got sort of the best of both worlds at LinkedIn. So I was like, hey, I'm all in on product marketing. I'm all in on being a PMM. Joined Uber, was there for a good while, and just really built a team there, honing my own product marketing and strategic skills there. And then some years later was invited to Instacart to actually build product marketing, the function, for the first time at the company. So when I joined Instacart, there was I think 2 product marketers already here, but there wasn't a full function team. So I joined initially to build out that function. And then as,
Okay.
the years went on, there was opportunities to just really think about, okay, well, what's next for me and what's best for the business? And so that's when I took on brand and I took on consumer insights. So today, like as the VP of consumer marketing, I lead product marketing, I lead brand marketing and consumer research. So
Love
it's been
it.
a
So connected.
wild journey.
Such an interesting journey. And two things came to my mind. The first one, it's similar in my case because I studied business and design. So in my university, it will be like half of the time I will be doing numbers, business school, everything that has to do with analyticals. And then I will be painting and doing photograph and Photoshop, So it was really built for agency owners or those professionals that were, divided between these two part of their brains. And then I have friends in my school that they went lean into design or illustration, and some others are more in the business side. And I'm like in the middle because I kind of run the agency, so it's fun. And then also my sister, which is the VP of marketing at the agency, she's an oil engineer. She was living out, crazy. So she spent a time in Abu Dhabi, in Peru. She worked in the oil industry, and then she saw my company. And when I started, I was working with startups in the Bay Area. But then, like startups at the beginning, if they need to cut something, they will cut marketing. So I was struggling a little bit at the beginning. And she's like, why you don't work for corporate America? And I'm like, because I'm 23. I'm not ready because I started the company at 20. And she's like, okay, let me open a LinkedIn account for your agency and we take it from there. And I'm like, sure. So she did it. And then after 2 or 3 months, she came back. You have a meeting with L'Occitane. They need you. You would just go there. And, obviously, since then, she's been leading all marketing efforts at the agency.
That's so cool.
And she became a partner. But yes, so my point is to say that I really understand the importance of connecting those dots. And then when you share all your story, it just makes sense. And we will talk about the Super Bowl, but now it makes even more sense to me. So super excited, super excited. So throughout your career, how do you evaluate whether an idea or an initiative is the right one to move forward with? Do you follow a specific process or is more of a feeling?
Good question. I would say, and it's something that I'll start with how I learned to make these decisions, which a mentor of mine really helped with, which is like, how do you think about building strategic conviction around a decision and an idea, right? And it does start with what your past experience is, the things you've done before, what you've learned from those, whether those moments, whether it's a win or a loss, like what are those learnings? So you're thinking about like bringing that past experience into the room, but also like more important is, do you understand who your customer is? Do you understand what really makes your business go? Can you connect those two things, right? Like, do you understand the clear need and the value prop, and like where do those things converge? Do you understand what's happening in culture so that when you bring this idea forward, yes, you're connecting with a consumer need, there's a clear value proposition, but like, are you reading the room, right? Like, do people really want to hear this message in this moment? And so like it's sort of that trifecta of commerce, consumer, and culture. When you're evaluating an idea, can you see the through line through each of those?
I love that.
Yeah. So I would say there's always a go-to-market process, right? That keeps you on track, keeps things moving, but you're applying like your strategic thinking throughout. And there are moments where like you got to hone in and make a decision. There are other moments where you want to flare and come up with as many ideas as possible. So the process isn't necessarily linear, but you're keeping those 3 vectors in mind throughout the course of the process.
Yeah, I love that. So at CROING, we believe collaboration beats competition and that working closely with teams and partners creates the best culturally relevant campaigns. So it sounds ideal to have everything perfectly seamless, but in practice, it can be challenging. So how do you approach collaboration between teams and external partners? And what tips do you have for keeping everyone in sync? I just want to mention before that our audience mostly consists of CMOs, VP, marketers, and women in high leadership positions. And I love to ask because everyone has its way to do things and to, let's say, collaborate with other partners or the leadership is different, but I've discovered that by asking these questions that are super, in a way, personal in terms of the leadership style, it helps others to, okay, so this is another angle that I could also try. So that's why what I asked is, so just for you to know.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So for me, coming up through product marketing, it's a function that is highly cross-functional. Like you basically can't get anything done unless you can, work really well with product, with engineering, with data science, with marketing, with research. Like there's really no way to do the work unless you can master cross-functional collaboration. When you're a junior marketer, you have to influence without a title, right? So as I've become more senior in my career, the thing that I've harnessed when doing these initiatives is this idea of a tiger team, right? And that's inclusive of both people internal to the company, but also your agency partners, for instance. And say we're on the road to Super Bowl, it is imperative that we all become one team. Right.
Exactly.
And so that tiger team is inclusive of people with an Instacart email address and people who have an agency email address.
Of course.
And so we have to work together. There's no the agency or external partners are doing their work over here and we're doing work over here. And somewhere along the way, it'll all come together. It's from day zero, we become one team as we march towards whatever this initiative is. And a big part of that is when bringing that team together is establishing a shared vision and shared goals for the work. And that's how you start to get that everybody's like one team, one dream, but you literally need to bring the people into the same Slack room, into the same meeting rooms, in even in the ideation of the work, everyone is in it together. And I found that is what's led to a lot of Instacart's greatest success is when we partner both internally and externally in that way.
I love that. And I guess also, well, not I guess, but in my own experience, it's also defining who is the decision maker for every of the steps. Because when you have everyone in the room, it's vital to know, okay, this is the one that will make this last call to make sure, you can stay within time.
Yeah. No, and that yes, and those responsibilities have to be clear, right?
Exactly.
Because when you bring everyone in one room, which I think is what you're getting at, is there's a lot of voices there once you do that. And so once all those voices are in the room, there's got to be a clear decision maker or it becomes pure chaos. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Love it. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Now I would love to hear your point of view about how brands show up for people. So this is the second block of the podcast. So first, who is Instacart's target audience? And I'm asking obviously about Instacar because it's the brand that you are working on right now. And within that audience, which audience or community do you find the easiest and the hardest to reach today, and why?
Well, I would say overall, everybody needs to grocery shop, right? And so Instacart has multiple audiences that we prioritize. If I were to say who is our most engaged, most excited customer, I would describe that person as the busy person, right?
Okay.
Whether you are the head of household like myself with 3 kids, a demanding career, you've got work, you've got all the things going on in your life. Maybe you're taking care of aging parents, but you inherently are busy and trying to find ways to multiply yourself, trying to find ways to do the things that are important, like grocery shopping, right? Because getting your groceries is what nourishes you. It nourishes your family. It's incredibly important to do that well. But you need something to help extend you into those things, right? So that you can make it to that important meeting or you can make it to soccer practice. You need a player who can be a partner to you and do your grocery shopping for you. And so I would say that target audience, that primary audience is that busy, that person who's in the prime busyness of their life.
I think I know
that
her.
person. You know her. Yes. I am her. She is me. And so you can imagine that group. And then you have other audiences who just aren't as busy in that time of their lives. They're in a different place in life, whether they're still sort of students and still have that extra time, however they choose to use it, or maybe they are transitioning out of having a full-time demanding career. And so they're in those later stages of life and they have more time back. And I would say for those audiences, it's less that like Instacart isn't right for them. It's more that the use case is different, right?
Of
And
course.
so we have to meet those communities where they are, right? So the way a student or somebody just starting off in life might need groceries is very different
Of
from
course.
someone who's in the prime of the thick of it, is what I would call it, versus someone who's like sort of, going into a different phase where things can nicely slow down. But it's all about meeting customers where they are.
Love it. And talking
Yeah.
about this busy person that you
Yeah.
describe, what do you think is the most important to them in how
Yeah.
your brand shows up?
What we know about our target audience is that groceries are incredibly important to them. So, yes, it's an errand. Yes, it's a thing that you have to do almost every week, sometimes every other week, but it's a errand you have to do pretty often, but it's also one of the most important ones you have to do, right? This group is thinking about things like nutrition. There are concerns around picky eaters in the house. There could be allergies in the home. They really do care about getting the groceries right. And so they want a resource, a service that cares just as much as they do. And so we know that to be the primary reason to choose Instacart, right? Because we've been at this since the very beginning. We are the grocery experts that care about getting your groceries right. We have the technology, we have the selection to get it right. We have shoppers who truly do care about picking the right groceries for you. And so it makes us the right choice for such an important job.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, love. Something my audience, which mainly I told you consists of CMOs, VPs, and marketers in top leadership positions, they are always trying to figure out is how to respond to cultural moments or trends. Everyone
Mm.
has their own approach, and I love to hear yours. So, has there been a recent pop culture moment where Instacart reacted or found inspiration for a creative decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think this might be a good place to start talking about Super Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
because it actually, in many ways, was based on both something happening in culture, but something we understood about our customers. And so we started thinking about, how do we really think about a Super Bowl campaign that will really connect with consumers? And it started with something really simple, like a very simple insight, which is bananas,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the first thing we did was like look at the conversations that people are having, online. And one of the things that we saw is that people like to debate. Sometimes things, there's obviously serious conversations happening in the world, but there's also conversations about day-to-day life that become quite the heated debate. And we looked at, our data as well, like what are people doing shopping for on Instacart? And our number one item is bananas, the number one thing people order. We have sold 1.8 billion bananas in the course of Instacart's lifetime. And of those 1.8 billion bananas, over 30 million of them had a specific shopper note. And so in our world, a shopper note is where, you add items to your cart and you leave a little note for the shopper to say exactly how you want that item. And there were over 30 million notes on banana orders. Everything from please make sure that they're super green. Please make sure they're perfectly ripe. I want some that are yellow, but with like a few brown spots. Like they were so specific and really enjoyable to read, actually. And so we thought about, people are really, really particular about their produce in general, but seemingly very particular about the bananas. I was pretty shocked because for me, a good yellow banana is good enough. I didn't realize that people were so like particular, right? And so we started to say, okay, well, how about we take this debate to the internet, right? Like introduce this idea of, hey, which type of banana is best? And so we started our campaign run with that simple question that we put out into the world, and people really got into it. Like people were like, no. This is the best way to eat a banana. And I did not know that there were that many people who love green bananas. I was like really surprised at how many people love them that way, but they do. And so we started our campaign with just, really engaging in culture and conversation. And that then culminated with the Super Bowl television spot itself, right? And so like this, for a week, people are really engaging in the debate. And then finally at the big game, we really settled that debate by inviting Ben Stiller and Benson Boone, and of course, the brilliant Spike Jones to build a story that helps you understand that with Instacart, you can get bananas just how you like, right? And it was just truly, I think, hallmark of my career for sure. And it just unveiled this beautiful, joyful, like very vintage expression of the idea that I think will live on for a very long time. But also, what I think is even greater about it is that it actually introduced a product feature.
Correct, which was my
Yes.
question. I was about to ask you, this product feature came before of you guys reading all these things and you built it and then you did the campaign out of it, or you have already the feature and then you wanted a campaign that highlighted, like how was that process?
Yeah, so the process was, first, we always understood that consumers care about their produce, right?
Yeah.
Like I care about my produce. Like it's a very particular thing, right? So we always knew that, and we always knew we wanted to build a way to help consumers better control their produce. It's when we started to see these very specific things around ripeness that it was very clear that a preference, sort of selection was the right thing to do. We had built a preference selection about a year or so ago, but the feedback from consumers, those notes helped us really fine tune what that experience needed to be. And so, yeah, we introduced the preference picker where you can get your bananas just how you like, and that lives on. And following the campaign, I think we have I think 250,000 bananas that have a preference picked. So like people really love the
Usage,
feature.
yeah.
Yeah, and we've expanded it to include avocado ripeness because that's also a big important one.
That's important for me.
If I want to make something today versus in a few days, like that ripeness really matters.
Love
Um,
it.
and we also have it for deli meat. So you can get your deli meat, sliced thin or thick or somewhere in between. That's also one that people really want to get right. The sandwich lovers of the world want their meat a particular way.
Of course.
So the preference picker is something that can support so much more.
So it's growing
So
and it can support like more things.
yeah.
Love
It can,
it.
yes, it's built in a way that can extend to lots of different types of produce and meat. So very, very exciting.
And then related to the idea itself, like the creative idea. So
Yeah.
how was that? Do you have different ideas to choose from? Can you
Yeah.
share a little? Because obviously
Yeah.
what I love the most is like you have this consumer insight, you have product picture, but then that doesn't mean that will be Benson Boone and Ben Stiller doing the campaign, which is
Yeah.
fascinating. So I want to understand that connection. Like how was that
Yeah.
process?
So I would say the thing that really helped the process along was the fact that we understood the consumer insight. We
Exactly.
had a product feature that could serve that need. We had the parts that are incredibly important for the so what.
Correct.
But then when you're going to Super Bowl, it's the biggest stage, advertising stage, right? And everybody's going to go there and they're going to bring it, right? Every advertiser in that game is going to bring their best, absolute best work. And that means that even higher bar for breakthrough, even higher bar for getting to a point of resonance with consumers. And so we knew that visually we wanted to stand out because that's one lever. We understood that we knew as a brand, we wanted to bring joy to the game, right? So we knew our tone needed to be something that would make people smile and laugh because that's who we are as a brand. And, as we were going through the creative process with our agency, FCB McCann, we, of course, looked at a lot of different ideas and a lot of different ways in, but we fell in love with this idea of okay, we're known for kind of bringing great music into our ads. Let's bring something completely unexpected from a musical perspective, but hold on to that joy and that comedy. And that is how the Ben Stiller and Benson Boone of it all came together, because it's both one part joy and laughter. And I think about the movies that I've loved over the course of my life, and Ben Stiller is in many of those.
Of course.
And Benson Boone, who has a beautiful voice and incredible flips. So it all started to feel like it could work together. And then going into the process and knowing that that was the key message and knowing we wanted to build this brother band, the rest of it just really came together really naturally and organically. Yeah. And then you write that script, which is a really tight script. And then you let this incredible talent, both in the Benson and Ben, but also in Spike Jonze, just really do the thing that only they can do. And so it kind of came together that way.
Love it. And how much
Yeah.
time in advance did you work?
Oh, that's a good question. I think we started, I would say kickoff of Super Bowl was probably in like late August, early September. But, kickoff means we're doing this,
Yeah.
like let's build the brief and all the things. And so momentum really starts, I think, really moving for us late Q3, early Q4.
And what was the biggest challenge in leading a brand through this moment?
That is a good question. I would say whenever you're going to, I think like the biggest advertising stage in the world, you do have to like think about how your brand is going to show up in a way that like resonates with such a large and broad audience, right?
Correct.
And the thing that I would say it's a challenge because it's a broad way of marketing. It's not as targeted to that busy millennial head of household.
Correct,
It's
correct,
like,
correct.
how do you have all the pieces? Like Ben Stiller appeals to me as like as a millennial, but like we had to have a Benson Boone to like
Got
think
it.
about like the younger generation, right? And so I think the greatest challenge was thinking about how to create that resonance across generations. I think we did a great job in the end, but it was
100%.
definitely something we like had to like really talk through and like really think about our talent selection, our going with something so vintage, what would that mean for the work? And so it was definitely a risk in some aspects, but I think a risk worth taking. Yeah.
Love it. No, congrats. I really want to say
Yeah.
congrats because I
Thank you.
understand and it happens also in like, these works of working in advertising that you start with such a, we want to make it fun and we want to make it amazing and then in the process that energy might, get lost. And when I see an advertising like this, I know, because a lot of people see it as like, oh, it's fun, it's great. Now they have this feature, love it. But I know that means a lot of decisions and a lot of moments of maybe tension where you needed to make a decision where it's like, I really believe this is where we need to move forward. So I know it might not be as easy. So when I see the final result, it's like, oh, this is beautiful. It makes me so proud, even though I wasn't working on it. But for the marketing industry in general. Thank you for sharing all that, love. So we have two more sections to go. So the next one is called Empowerment in Action. I know already that the audience will have a lot of things to, like you already shared a lot of insights and lessons that will be helpful for them, but this is more specific towards that. So since we have so many leaders watching and listening right now who wants to make their own mark, let's talk about the how. So that's why we call Empowerment in Action. So how do you make sure your ideas are heard, both now and through your career?
So I think there's almost, when I think about it, and maybe this is like me leaning back into like my engineering brain, but I think that there's a formula, honestly, for like how I approach this personally. And so it starts with, if I want to be heard, I need to really know what I'm talking about. And that means understanding how my idea is really and being able to articulate how my idea is backed by insights and data, right? There's so much things that can be like fun and, oh, that's great. But like without the so what, which is, the idea is backed by insights and data, you just have something that feels fun. And through that lens, like it's like, again, understanding your customer, understanding what the business is able to deliver, know the product, know the user, connect the two, right? So it's just like that foundational understanding of, what is truly at the core of what will make this brand grow, how the brand can resonate, how the business can grow as a result of it. And then of course, like, we are brand people, we're brand marketers. Like, you have to be an excellent storyteller.
Exactly.
Right? Like honestly, you have
to.
Right? Like, if you are not telling great stories internally, how could you possibly do so externally? Right? Like, you got to add the razzle dazzle. And to me, that starts with really understanding what your leadership team, the team that you have to convince to come along on the journey with you, what their priorities are. If they're sitting in product, if they're sitting in finance, if they're sitting in ops or legal, like, what are the things that are top of mind for them? How do they think about the business in the first place? Can you speak their language, right? And like come to them with a proposal that meets their needs, but also exceeds their expectations. And so you start with the foundation of like really having that strategy and plan. but then you got to translate it to all the different folks who have to say yes.
Correct. Yeah,
So I
that's
just lean
key.
on my storytelling skills in both directions.
That's key because sometimes it's like people can tend to believe that, my idea is great. I know it's great, yes, but knowing that's great first because you work in an ecosystem, whether you're an
Mm-hmm.
agency or a brand marketer, and it's not that because your idea is great, then that's it. No, you need to be able to sell the idea internally and to bring
Yes.
people on board. And to do so, which is what I love the most about what you said, is that you need to understand their language, what their
Mm-hmm.
priorities of each of the stakeholders, so you can actually talk to them in their same way of speaking. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I understand that that's a hard job as well,
It
because
is.
obviously it's not easy to understand everyone and talk to everyone, but as you said, it's part of the work because we are working, like as a marketers, we're trying to understand consumers to talk to them. So
Mm-hmm.
this is just a smaller piece of the consumer. There are less stakeholders in a company than consumers out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, it's even if you know how to build a great messaging hierarchy, for instance, like what the primary message should be, secondary, and so on. You can think about that for your internal audiences as well. Like, what I'm going to say first to my finance partner is probably different from what I'm going to say first to my legal partner. And so
Of
meeting
course.
people where they are is like incredibly important to like gaining that like alignment, and not just alignment, but like buy-in. And
Correct.
I think you're winning when like not only are they saying, yes, I'm on board with this, but they're also saying, how can I help? Like,
Love
what can I
it.
do to
That's
contribute here?
beautiful.
And like something as big as Super Bowl, that is like in very much in thanks to the entire company, like
Of
functions from across the company, really leaning in, buying in, and saying, hey, like, here's what we do over here, and here's how we're going to help make Super Bowl successful. So, absolutely.
Fantastic. So now, if a CMO or a marketer in a leading position wants to start speaking publicly or
Ooh.
writing, but doesn't know where to begin, what advice
Mm.
would you give?
I'll be honest, I'm a bit of an introvert myself. Learning to like kind of go out and speak on panels and speak on podcasts, not like my natural
Mhm.
go-to place. And so for me, I can speak personally in saying that like I just started to just rip off the band-aid. Like of course you want to start in a space that feels comfortable, right?
Of
You don't
course.
want to go from like 0 to 100 in public speaking. That I wouldn't advise that. So you start thinking about what are like those like really focused, more like I would say forums where you have something to contribute skills wise, experience wise, and really leaning into those moments first. And really, what I learned from doing that is the most important thing that I can do is, yes, bring my experience, bring my skills, but also just bring myself. And like
Oh,
I'm not going to be, the
of
podcast guest that another marketing leader will be. I
of
can only
course.
be me, right? And so if you know that you have something to share, to contribute, the only other part to do is like bring yourself to those moments. And of course, like if you need more support, there's always so much more support, right? In terms of trainings and things
Of
like
course.
that. But yeah, like I
I love
found a way to do it by just like realizing that I just need to be me. That's it.
I love that, and I love what you said about starting in a place where you feel safe. You know already that it's a place where you can be yourself. I love when, for example, in this podcast, because it happens a lot. I work with many brands, and I'm in like internal meetings, and I'm hearing these brand marketers, and I'm like, oh my god, I needed the world to hear you. But then I ask them like, do you want to join the podcast? And they're like, no, because I don't have much to share. And I'm like, but I'm doing like, a master degree just by listening to you. I need this
Yeah.
to be out there. But I understand that sometimes it's not easy. That's why at the beginning
Mhm.
of the recording, I said, like, if you want to repeat it, you want to say it again, you can do it. I've been in podcasts where it's like super strict, like, you need to do it this way. I want to make sure that this is a space where everyone can feel they can say it and repeat it and do it again. And, because
Yeah.
it is important. And once you do it for the first time, any type of engagement like this, then the second is easier and easier and easier. And now you know how it works. So
Mhm.
I love
Mhm.
that. Thank you for sharing. Lastly, when you think about your work and impact, what do
Mhm.
you hope to leave behind in this industry?
Wow.
We are getting intense, deep here.
Legacy. I mean, I think like when I think about marketing and brand building, I think about first and foremost, of course, you want to be a brand leader who helps the businesses you work for grow. Right. And so that is something that lives beyond any time and space. It's like, how successful will a company be across time? And so it's certainly something, as I think about all the companies I've worked for before and Instacart, that like my hope is that the work contributed helps continue to like really empower the company to grow and create a runway for a household brand that people will love across time. Also, like just even more personally, like I believe in the power of storytelling. I think stories live beyond any time and space, right? I think about the stories my mother told me that still stick with me. And I see great storytelling, even in the commercial sense, even sometimes just as much, right? When you think about, I can like think of commercials that
Of
I
course.
remember from childhood, right?
Yeah.
That like just sticks with you your whole life. I hope to do that sort of work across the
Love
course of
it.
my career. Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. You're already doing it, my love. So
Oh,
you're already
thank you.
building that. Okay, so last part is a quick fire round. The rules are simple. I'm going to throw you a few questions and you will answer as fast as you can, no overthinking.
Okay.
Are you
Okay.
ready?
So I'm ready. Let's go.
Awesome. Winning an award or achieving business results?
Achieving business results.
Who really builds a brand? The audience or the people behind it? So
The
the people.
audience.
Culture leads brand or brand leads culture?
Culture leads brand.
Great ideas need big budgets.
No, absolutely not.
Stories told by creators or by the brand?
By creators.
Communication in the US, Spanish, English, or both?
Both.
Love it. It was simple.
Yeah, that's easy.
No, then we have something else, but it's not about that. But it's a new
Mm.
section that we included in this season 2, which is the Women Who Run playlist. So
Mhm.
before I let you go, we have this playlist and we're asking our guests to pick a song that represents their leadership style or the essence of their brand. So what song do you want to add into the list?
I would have to pick a song that is more personal versus a
Love.
song for Instacart, the brand. And I would say it's September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. My favorite song. My oldest daughter was born in September, but it's also like a song that just like helps remind you to like get up and go.
Love
You know,
it.
it's great rhythm, all the things. Yeah.
Love it. I will
Yes.
obviously send you the final list the playlist once we have it. Very
Okay.
exciting. Everyone is excited about this. It will be an amazing list.
Amazing.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so
So,
excited. I can't wait to listen.
yay!
Yeah.
So finally, love, this is the closing, and I want to share a little bit of final reflections. So, what does it mean to you to be a woman who brands? And what advice would you give to a woman in the creative industry, especially one in a leadership position?
Wow. Okay. So I'd say for me, like what it means to be a woman in brand is being an example for other women and girls of what's possible. And I think I mentioned throughout the course of the podcast that I'm a mom, but I'm a mom of 3 girls, and being able to set an example for my daughters to show them that like, you know, this, what I'm doing is possible. I have a personal, it feels personal, you know? So when they see, you know, bananas just how you like on television, they know that mommy has something to do with that.
Love it. You know, we are also 3 sisters. My sisters and I.
Yeah,
Yes.
nice.
It's
Yes.
the
So
best. I mean,
the
I haven't
best.
had other
Yeah.
experience, but I feel it's the best. I'm in the middle. So I have my older sister and my younger sister, and it's
Yes.
such a journey. Congrats.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, what advice would you give to a woman in the creative industry, especially one in a leadership position?
Yeah, I would say we talked about this a little bit with like how to get into public speaking and things like that, which is like my biggest learning in coming into a leadership role is the importance of leading based on who I am and not who I believe what a leader should do or what a leader should be, but like knowing that the experiences that I have, the work that I've done, the knowledge I hold is uniquely mine to give, and not necessarily like I have to sort of mold myself into what other people expect out of the role that I take up, right? Like take up that space. You've earned it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for sharing your insights with us, your knowledge with us. It's been an honor. I love our conversation. I
Same.
hope you
Thank you.
enjoyed as much as I did.
I did. Thank you so much for having me. It
Of
was
course.
great. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
love. Thank you.
All right.
And to all women who brand, listening, or reading, remember your leadership shapes culture, your decisions drive impact, and your ideas can redefine brands, and your voice matters. It matters so much. So take what inspired you today to guide your own path, and see you next time. Ciao.
See ya.